This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I was like, hey, you want to do this live? And I'm like, sure.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation, and we are here at the Crowbar in Berlin, an excellent secret spot, and you are listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a show about Delmarva life and culture, the privileges and disadvantages to living where we do.
Oh, I like that. I like that added line.
Thank you very much. So much to get to this week. More to get to than certainly we're going to have time. But before we get to that, let's get to our sponsors. Each week we're sponsored by the beer we're drinking. This week, I think we're both kind of legitimately sponsored by legitimate breweries, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Sponsored's a wide casting thing, but my brother works for 902 Brewing in Jersey City, and I haven't been because I'm still afraid of COVID, but they bought a building and completely renovated it, and they have rooftop seating, and their rooftop is on the Hudson River looking across at New York. So if anybody's ever allowed to drink beer in public again,
that's the place.
If they can keep their heads above water until people can leave their house,
right?
It's a beautiful place. I'm very excited about it. But my favorite beer that they make is called Path. And this is a special edition Path, which is why I'm drinking it today, because it's got like a clock ticking on it. They actually got hops from New Jersey rather than the hops they usually use to put into it. Path is a train that used to run from Jersey. It ran from Newark to the World Trade Center and still runs.
Yeah, is that a acronym for something? Is that like Pennsylvania?
No, it's a public
auto train
transit. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. Hub. Yeah, auto train hub. People Auto Train Hub. That's what I think it is. I'll know for next week, I promise. But anyway, it's quite good. If you can get it, I think you can only get this in Jersey. But if you're living in New Jersey, you should get this and drink it because it's very good. And how about you?
So from your legitimate sponsor to my legitimate sponsor, Dogfish Head, one of my favorites, Slightly Mighty. I got a great story that we'll get to actually about this beer. I don't know. It's crisp. It's clean. It's everything that you need.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Path is just a pale ale. It's beer flavored beer. It's absolutely wonderful.
Beer flavored beer.
We will get to that in a little bit. But if people want to see what we're day drinking during the week when we're not doing it for the show, where can they find us socially?
They can find us on Instagram at Day Drinking on Delmarva. Where we are day drinking on a pretty regular basis. So give us a follow, show us what you're day drinking and what you're doing to cope with 2020. It's basically what it boils down to.
We usually start the show with what we call one cool thing, and then the one cool thing kind of launches us into our discussion for the day. But I want to be a little preemptive and talk about my other social media projects, which is something that's often saved to the end.
Okay.
Because one minorly cool thing, but a lot of people think it's cooler than I think it is I turned 50 this week.
Yeah.
And so if you have the stomach or the time, my godmother sent me 50 birthday cards.
Oh, wow.
And
that's fun.
And I went on Facebook Live and opened and read each one of them.
That's great.
It's you can see people kind of poking in and out saying, hey, oh God, he's really doing this, isn't he?
He's doing it.
So it's not interesting, but it's amusing as hell.
Probably more amusing for you than anything else.
Well, at one point my daughter saw it was on and came over. She's like, oh, I got to see this live.
That's perfect.
So it's 11. Well, it's not 11. It felt like 11 o'clock at night because I've been doing some traveling, which we'll talk about. But it was, I guess, 8:30 because one of the jokes is you have to be in bed by 9 when you're 50. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. So anyway, feel free to check that out on my personal Facebook page, Anthony Russo. And if you're on Snapchat, I have been
Ooh.
doing lighted ball races pretty much every night. I'll be going away for the next week. But if you tune into my Snapchat, which is OSSURYNOT, every night I have lighted balls in my pond, and we guess which ones are going to come on first. And I film almost every scintillating moment of that. So if you need to look at my pond with my commentary until one of the balls lights up, feel free to check that out. It's again, it's almost as astoundingly boring as my birthday party, but regular.
Yeah,
More
I
regular.
can't think of anything that better encapsulates good, clean fun than
Just-
until we start betting on it. I think.
Right. Well, I mean, Mike Kelly and I bet on it, but we have a shared pool of money, so nothing goes anywhere. But you can get up to 2 points. You get a point if your color comes first, and you get a point if your ball comes first. So if your ball and color both come, you get 2 points and
2 points.
win. Oftentimes there's a tie.
Yeah,
It's riveting. It is absolutely riveting. And
sure.
each week we talk about one cool thing that happens as a result of us living here. I would like to talk about yours first, because if we don't get to mine, we can always do it next week. So what was your one cool thing?
Well, one of the coolest things about living here on the shore is the world class breweries that are around here, and probably perhaps the one of my favorites, Dogfish Head, started 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And which is just, I don't know. It's cool because it started real small. They've grown, and of course, in recent history, have been bought up by Boston Beer, merged, and they're still maintaining the brand. My one cool thing is that I was asked to come and film a number of the long-running employees that have been there for a while, for a 25th anniversary, basically, celebration video. It's just going to be internal, so they're free to speak and and share their thoughts on 25 years and where they're going. And there's some fun things that happened with it too. But obviously a big thrill for me. I've worked on project around Sam from time to time. Sam Calgione, of course, the owner and founder of Dogfish Head. And this was the first time I got to sit down and be part of the interview with him and his wife, Mariah. And it was just, I don't know. It was a real thrill. I knew it was coming up. I wanted to kind of save it as my one cool thing until it was actually done. For this reason, because like I knew it was going to be cool. I knew it was going to be a good time, but I think I was kind of shocked at how much of an inspiration it was.
How?
Just because just listening to Sam and Raya talking, and they've been together for as long as they've been in business together, and I work with my wife who's 6 feet away from me, and I don't know, from a entrepreneurial standpoint, I found it pretty cool. And one of the and so the one of the fun stories is Slightly Mighty came out and is right on the can as a low cal IPA. And one of the things that they shared was as a lesson learned over the last 25 years was never say never. And the way Sam said it is like, never write down on paper something you're never going to do, because when they started, they were never going to can a beer. They were never going to make anything but beer. And, now they're part of a bigger merger that actually, does seltzers and teas and stuff like that.
They do. And they also have a distillery.
And they have a distillery. Yes. And then the another thing that they had put down is like, we'll never make a low ABV beer. And, so like, I don't know. I found that to be interesting, and, coincides with what I really enjoy drinking these days, which is the Slightly Mighty. So it was a good thing. I don't know that I'll be able to share any footage of that
We're going to change this to Todd and Tony's secret projects we cannot tell you about.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure there'll be something digestible that we can float out, but got to get through the project first. It was a fun 2 days of interviewing not just Sam and Mariah, but staff who's been there for a long time, and actually getting some insight into the benefits of the merger with Boston Beer Company, and that how, of course, this unforeseen global pandemic, this merger helped them, make it through, essentially. So
no, it's well timed, if nothing else.
Right.
Well, and it was incidentally timed, right? This was in the fall. This has almost been a year, maybe by now.
I think it's been a year.
I recall them opening. I've been here that long.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall the rumor that there was going to be a brew pub nearby.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think of how involved I've been in that since, just as living here, just on the periphery. I mean, I did write about Dogfish, among other places when I was writing about beer, but it's weird. It's weird to try to remember when I wasn't 100% sure what someone meant when they said there's going to be a brew pub coming and that they were going to be making beer here, because it doesn't feel like something I'm likely to. I didn't react to it the way that I since have reacted to it. So I was as caught up in it as everyone else, and it's cool to remember. That's all.
Yeah.
My one cool thing is I'm recently returned from Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania, where I was filming a documentary, being filmed for a documentary about a book that I'm writing, about a podcast that I used to work on.
Right.
I got permission to write the book, so it's not a secret. So I am writing a book. I will remind everyone every week. I got some excellent news on that front. The documentary, I was under the impression, was going to be out in December. It's actually going to be out in March. So I already am on target to finish the book by December. So I could conceivably have it out by March, which would be good for me.
Yeah. So then they can coincide and.
Right. What will be less good for me, I think, is the way that I come out in the documentary. And I wanted to talk to you about. I want to tell this story. And I want to tell it to someone who cares. That's why I wanted to tell Todd. I'm going to take a little sip of beer first.
I like that you said on the last show we had that you fear that the people over who are making the documentary like you in the same way that I like you.
Yeah, that's 100% true. As far as I know, this is going to come off as a mockumentary about what an idiot Tony Russo is. And they didn't do anything to discourage me from believing that, except be very nice to me and very kind to me. This is all in my head.
Yeah.
So I got there on the first day, and hilarity ensued, and we did a day's worth of shooting. A lot of it was they were asking me questions that I was answering, and then some of it was me like working at a cafe and working at a bar, and these are all things that I do. But they weren't things that I was, quote, really, unquote, doing at the time. And so it was strange for me. But they didn't ask me to do anything that I hadn't done.
Right.
I do go to coffee places and buy coffee so I can sit there and use their Wi-Fi when I'm out of town. Lots of it. Everybody does that. Same thing with, I go to bars instead if there's Wi-Fi and I think I don't have far to drive.
Yep.
And so I did all that, and that was fine. And they said they wanted to get a little bit more in the morning, and then they had to leave. And they wanted to leave early, so they said, we'll probably pick you up at 7:30 or so, which isn't a problem for me. I'm an early riser. But they actually came early, and they said the following: there's some really great mist coming off of the lake. And we would love to get you down there looking at the lake while the mist comes off of it. And so 10 to 15 minutes later, I was contemplating the mist rising off of the lake while I stood into the distance at the future and the falling leaves and the autumn. And I just, I just kept standing there, and they were just like walking around me, taking pictures, and it was so uncomfortable. I trust everyone there, and they're all better storytellers than I am and smarter than I am. And I'm pretty sure they don't want to, if they want to make me look stupid, it'll be very easy.
Right.
But I don't think that they're going for that. I do worry about becoming a meme of some sort. That's a secret terror.
Yeah.
That if I wasn't going to become a meme before, there were several instances in this where I could.
Yeah.
One instance is there where I'm standing at standing on the pond looking out into the future. And they didn't say look out into the future, by the way. They said just stand there and kind of take it in.
Yeah.
Because I when I was looking around the place. And the other thing that they did too much of, I think, and hopefully they don't put as much of it as they took in the final product, is get me making coffee. Now, they were kind enough to rent me a house, so I brought an espresso pot, so I didn't have to drink garbage coffee. But I don't drink espresso every morning. That's a lot for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
And they had me make 2 pots. And at one point, I was literally staring off into the distance, holding my coffee cup, and and the steam was coming off of it. And then my eyes, it came into the focus, and then the director was right there with the camera. And I'm like, oh, that's another just dreamy-eyed Tony out in his Pocono retreat. So
drinking his coffee,
drinking his coffee, thinking about life.
Oh man.
That said, I'm quite excited for both the documentary and the book. I'm no longer working with Incongruity Media, for whom I've done the last 2 shows. So if anybody's got work, I'll do it. But it was a really friendly parting, but they're doing something different with the show, and I wanted to do something different with the book. So,
and yeah, are you still talking about what the subject of the book is, or is it still?
Oh,
I think we mentioned it.
I think we have. If you want to look up the Sherry Shriner Reptilian Cult online, you can. I guarantee you what I've written is not online. I got really good access to some of the players. I got really good access to some of the court records, and a lot of the stories that have come out have been, let's say, lightly reported, like the way I would have reported it if I only had a week instead of a year to do it. But
yeah,
I've had a year with this stuff, so I'm really starting to get a deep understanding of it.
Yeah.
I have a working title that I'm not allowed to share yet, but I think I'm going to finalize that by December. By December, I'll be able to talk pretty much openly about it. And then the only trick will be not to recite the whole book before it comes out. So that was that.
It's so exciting, and I think it's it is having a tiny glimpse of essentially a first draft, if you want to call it that. What I had the opportunity to look at. I'm super excited for what I'm sure will be a riveting story. And I just think I do love, and I would never want to use you against your will, but there's something to you, and there's something to you talking about lizard people that I think is just a universally accepted.
I think that's what it is. I think that it's weird that anyone knows this much about such an esoteric subject.
Right.
And they like the way that I talk about it, because I can't go 2 sentences without undermining myself. I'm like, and this is what happened. Of course, I'm an idiot, so I could be wrong,
right.
Things like that, and trying to draw conclusions from very, very limited evidence. And that's what's difficult. What's difficult about the book is this idea that I know that I don't have all the information, and I also know that all the information might not even be out there. Like there might not be an answer.
Yeah. Well, and what I have found interesting, and I don't know if the book is going to do more of this or less of this, but putting yourself in the mindset of these people.
Yes.
I think that hearing that from you is one of those things where I don't know if it was a Tom Brokaw type, saying it, you would be like, there's no way he believes this. But when you say this is what they think, they're like, does Tony maybe believe a little bit of it? Or, there's just like enough of, and, of course, no, but there's enough of a doubt, or there's just you in good storytelling making that happen.
Well, I think that what is important when it comes to these kinds of stories, and it's insane. I just wish the book was already out and the show was already out, because all the things you're hearing about QAnon and all of that is very much what I've been looking at for the last year and change.
Yeah.
And what, people keep saying, I don't know if I said this to you on this show, but I've said it other places. People keep saying we have two Americas, and I would refine that and say we have two American realities. Like there are people who think other people really are real monsters in human skin.
Yeah.
They're not pretending that they think that. They think that the way that you think people aren't really monsters in human skin.
Yeah.
And trying to get yourself into these shoes, trying to put yourself in a position where you're afraid of everyone around you because you think they're monsters, used to be harder. But now, you can go out and get a disease that'll kill you. And it is very much like living in a horror movie where literally anyone around me could be the monster that kills me.
Yeah.
To be the monster that puts something in me that makes me die.
Right.
And so I think it's a great analogy. If nothing else, I'm going to, and it'll be a post-COVID book. So a post-COVID book with a COVID analogy, that's fun.
Yeah.
I think people like that stuff.
That works.
I wanted to, though, go back to Boston Beer. I wanted to get my story out. I have 1,000 stories from this trip. The making the coffee and the going out to the
I wish I could befriend the director or cinematographer and just to get a frame of that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty spectacular. And the thing is, it really was gorgeous. Like I could see, like from their point of view, that they would be shirking their responsibilities in the visual medium if they drove past a steaming lake during sunrise of full foliage and didn't stick a person out there so they could take a picture of it. You know what I mean?
And it just happens that you're the person they have.
Right. They were justifying a fantastic shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was supposed to be out looking for stuff, and I really did go out and look for, so it's not super contrived. There's a little contrivance only because they and I have been interviewing. So the way this came together is I was working on something independently of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then our paths kept crossing. And then, we were able to collaborate a little bit on a couple information pieces. And then they're like, you want to be in this? And I said, sure.
Sure, why not?
And then I realized that they needed a narrator, and we're out of options. Like, Morgan Freeman wasn't available, so they figured they should have somebody who just knew the story and would sit and stare into the camera and talk for 14 hours. And I am definitely your man if you need that done.
Man.
So anyway, you and the folks at Saturday Night Live were in competition this week doing Dogfish Head related filming.
Yes.
And I thought of you when I saw that. And so when you said, when I'm not a Saturday Night Live person, but my wife is. Mm-hmm. And last night we decided to watch the clips, and there was a clip of a parody of a Boston Beer commercial.
Yeah.
And I just, have you seen it?
Yes. It's amazing.
Can you talk about it, please?
The basic premise is they're at a, it's like Boston lager for real Boston people. And they have these very commercially, commercial type people, trying their Oktoberfest, their pumpkin beer. And, it's like the guys on the show who just do like a slight little accent, but it's very, white bread and very commercially. But then, of course, the host of the show is Bill Burr. And he does like he has a cast on for some reason, and he's wearing a Celtics jersey over a car or under a Carhartt. And and it's just, just is that actual Boston person.
Yeah, he lays on the accent real hard. He gets in a fight with his son.
Yeah.
In the cereal aisle in the back of the shot. But I thought of it only because of the relationship between Dogfish Head and Samuel Adams, and I'm like, this is a good weekend for them, and because there's no such thing as bad publicity, certainly. And you were there kind of at the beginning of that story, and the ending was being kind of filmed or rehearsed at the same time.
Yeah, and it is funny to think that, like, I remember when like the biggest thing that happened to Dogfish was several years ago when Charlize Theron was, snapped by paparazzi carrying a case of 60 Minute into a Super Bowl party, and that was like the coolest thing. I'm like, that's a local company who's like in the hands of So yeah, the whole fun part about that, and I honestly think it came off great for them, because they had also launched a little bit of a advertisement where they were sort of poking fun at their selves, and it's probably where the idea for this sketch came up, because they're having like a regular Boston guy. It's like your cousin from Boston at the wedding, and and it's somewhere in between.
Right.
The white bread and Bill Burr, but it's so good to just kind of to see that and take it to the next logical step, and to have somebody like Bill Burr do it is also was also outstanding.
I wanted to ask you, I don't remember if you sent it to me personally or if I saw it on the internet, but you did a drone of Dogfish Head recently.
Yes, I did.
And was that part of this, or was that something else entirely?
No, so actually, that was my fun little teaser too. Is we got this new drone, and so like just to get some filler shots, I'm there. I popped it up, and
there were no smoking lakes, I guess.
No misty mountains to gaze upon. But yeah, the fun part of it is it's connected to the phone, so it's like real easy. And I put it on the Day Drinking on Delmarva Instagram.
That's where I saw it
as just like a teaser. It's like, hey, this is us actually doing our one cool thing.
Yeah.
Which maybe we should try to do more of. But yeah, that was fun. And the guy that I got to work with is actually in the formerly, he's got a great story too. But basically, former kind of HR, now he's like life and culture or something, a fun title. But part of this is to celebrate the 25 years, but then also to kind of show, the ethos of the Dogfish Head folks for the bigger, the mother company now, I guess. So they were they wanted to be able to kind of the plan is to maintain their brand and their off-centeredness and whatever has made Dogfish, but also to bring these Boston beer people along for the ride. So I think I think that that will do a good job to give some insight into that.
And they've traditionally gotten along. I mean, Sam and Sam.
Sam and Sam, not
right.
Sam.
Yeah, I'm not crazy, right? It's Jim. Sam and Jim. There you go.
Yeah,
they've traditionally gotten along, so it's always it seems like a good match, and I haven't heard anything bad. I mean, I'm not in the industry anymore, so maybe that's why. But
Right.
Among us internet folks, there hasn't been much of a stir.
Well, and I will say that I feel like knowing people who have worked there and still work there, it was, you know, there was definitely some apprehension at the start, and again with kind of the fortunate position that they're in to be able to survive things right now a little bit better. I think people are less apprehensive and more happy with how things are going. So I think ultimately I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, Dogfish was lean going in, so
yeah,
they were probably in. Like I said, just the cash infusion from Sam Adams must have been, right in the nick of time.
Yep.
So that is very cool. I am not 100% out of things to say, but I'm going to pretend I am anyway. I have Boston Beer. I have Pennsylvania Trip. I have Sam Adams. I have Birthday Party. I'm on the social media site MeWe now.
What is that?
It's it supposedly is a safe alternative to Facebook. I guess it's where where the Google Plus people went when Google Plus got shot down. I've been meaning to get there for a while. I recently have, and I'm on there by myself, just as I was on Google Plus by myself. So if you'd like to join me there, you can find me on my name there. I'm the only Tony Russo there, and then also on social media, my handle is by Tony Russo on Twitter and Instagram, and it's my name backwards. If you want to hear my lightning ball commentary starting again next Monday night, because I'm going to Wisconsin, and I will tell you about what it's like in Wisconsin if I come back without having contracted a disease or participated in a civil war. Stay tuned.
Or been taken over by lizard people.
Right. But until next week, or until next time, remember,
at the beach, it's happy hour whenever you say it is.
Cheers.
Cheers.